Breaking news in the fight for election integrity in California. President Trump this week signed a major presidential executive order with a number of election integrity requirements, including citizenship verification. Coming up, we'll tell you how this might impact California, how Democrats are already trying to block it, and what we're doing to pass a state constitutional amendment to require voter ID in all future California elections. All that and more coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator representing District 75 in the state assembly. I'm also the author of the California Voter ID Initiative, a state constitutional amendment that would require not only voter ID for casting a ballot, but citizenship verification in order to register and be on our voter rolls. More on that in a minute. But if you want to join the fight to restore election integrity in California, we need you to get off the couch and into the fight in a very active way. Go to the website reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. And on that website, you will find a link to the California Voter ID Initiative. It's on the right-hand side. Click on that link. It takes you to a page where you can sign our online petition to support California voter ID. This is important because when you sign that online petition, when we are cleared with our wet signature petitions issued by the Secretary of State to place voter ID on the ballot, you will be the first to receive a mailing package with the copy of the petitions. We need to build up this list now because we're only given 180 days when the Secretary of State authorizes our circulation of our petition in order to get 1 million signatures. That's a lot in the state of California for us to collect in a very short period of time. So sign online at reformcalifornia.org, click under California Voter ID Initiative. That's the campaign page, and then sign up for the online petition. Also, these initiatives cost a lot of money. We have to raise $3 million ASAP by August, and we have the opportunity to get matching funds from a number of coalition partners if we do. Please chip in a contribution right now to the California Voter ID Initiative campaign at reformcalifornia.org. That's reformcalifornia.org. So let me tell you what President Trump did this week with this executive order. And it is amazing. I love the executive order. It covers a lot of the issues that we have to address in order to restore public trust and confidence in our elections. But it does not solve the problem long term. And even short term, you know damn well that the Democrats across the country, but particularly here in the state of California, are going to sue President Trump to block his executive order. So the first thing you need to know about this executive order before we walk through the provisions, and I think you're going to love the provisions of the order, is that it is going to be challenged in court. Democrats do not want to restore the integrity of these elections. They don't want voter ID. They don't want citizenship verification. And so they're going to sue saying, oh, the federal government can't require that we do this. This impacts our state and local elections, and those are the issues in our domain. So expect this to go to court and be dragged out. I don't think that this will be resolved in time for the next election. It won't even likely be resolved by the next presidential election. So this is going to drag out in the courts. But secondly, executive orders from presidents can be changed if there's a new president. So it only lasts as long as the administration in power wants the executive order to actually be on the books. Also recognize that many executive orders sit there and gather dust. Executive branch bureaucrats don't necessarily implement them with vigor. So again, I'm thrilled that the president signed the executive order. There's a lot of good stuff in it. I want to see it all implemented, but it does not fix the problem with the sort of assurance that we need in order to have better elections. Let me go through the provisions of the executive order, and then I'm going to wrap up by talking about why our state constitutional amendment, the California Voter ID Initiative, is so crucial and what we require in our ballot measure. First, here is the executive order that President Trump signed this week. He signed it on Wednesday. The purpose section is basically, hey, our elections are a mess. We need to fix them. So Section 2 is where the real action begins. It's enforcing citizenship requirements for elections. This requires that every election officer in the United States has to review and see a document verifying the citizenship of the person registering to vote. Pretty common sense. You would think that it's already happening. It's not. In California, we have no real citizenship for review. It basically is someone at the bottom of the registration form. There's a note that says, only citizens can register to vote. If you're not a citizen, do not register. And then it says, I attest under penalty of perjury that I am a U.S. citizen. So it's the pinky swear model for California. That's not acceptable, not good enough. So what Trump is saying is that there should be documentary proof that you have to provide a document. Well, what is he suggesting be included? We can use a passport, a real ID, driver's license that indicates that the person is a citizen, a military identification card. So they go through a variety of documents that you could use. Now, he requires that the election officer that puts you on the voter rolls should identify what document they reviewed, what's the number, and what's the expiration date. This is important because then we can go back and look at whether or not that document was legitimate or not. Here's the problem. A, will they actually do it? B, this only applies going forward. So what do you do with all the people already on that list? So the next thing that the president's executive order does is Section B of that order requires that agencies provide free databases so that state and local officials can have easy access to verify documents. Pretty important and pretty simple. Section B3 says that DOJ and Department of Homeland Security should review voter lists that are maintained throughout every state to see if there are any inconsistencies with citizenship verification and whether there are illegal registrations on those rolls. Section C, E, and F of the order basically says that the Attorney General, Homeland Security, should be looking at any foreign national, any ineligible individual who has committed a crime as it relates to the election system in our country, or any ineligible people who've registered to vote or participated in elections. So it has everything to do with expediting and prioritizing enforcement and investigations into these issues. But again, it's really hard to look through these voter lists and figure out who is eligible and who's not just on the basis of name and address. That's hard to do. Is it possible? Yes, but it's much better just to force the state and local officials to cleanse their voter rolls by doing these document reviews and certifications. So Section 4 of the executive order says that any state that does not comply with these provisions shouldn't receive federal funds, discretionary funds, from a federal agency called the Election Assistance Commission. They do hand out money for a variety of enhancements and activities for elections in the United States. Again, this is federal funding. The government doesn't have to provide a state with funding if the government doesn't feel that the state is doing a good job complying with various standards and criteria set out by the federal government. Again, expect a lawsuit on that of states saying, we deserve our fair share of the money. Well, you only deserve money if you're actually doing the work that is required by the federal government for the money. Section 5 has more to do with prosecutions in terms of expediting that as an issue for the Department of Justice. Section 6 looks at security system reviews in terms of risk assessment from hacking. Section 7 has to deal with election day. And basically, it tells the Attorney General to go after states that allow ballots to arrive after the election is over on election day. A lot of states allow multitudes of days to pass between election day and when they cut off mail-in ballots, for example. State of California has a real problem here where they say, hey, you have to count the ballot even if it doesn't have a postal stamp on it. So who knows when that was mailed back? And that you have to accept ballots weeks after the election as long as there is a postal stamp. So those are the requirements here. There's a couple other housekeeping items that the president puts in his executive order. But again, let me remind you, executive orders can be overturned when an administration leaves office. Executive orders can be ignored by bureaucrats in the various federal agencies. And of course, expect lots of court challenges, including many lawsuits filed from California politicians. Our voter ID initiative here in California is the best way for us to move these issues forward. We require two things in this initiative. Number one, citizenship verification. To be on the voter rolls, you have to verify your citizenship. And this is easy to do. In the first election that this state constitutional amendment goes into effect, everybody who is on the voter rolls would have to show up and have a real ID that's citizenship based, provide Social Security verification, come in with a passport. You'd have to verify your citizenship just in that first election. Everything else is grandfathered from that point forward. Also, new registrations would require, basically, as the president is stipulating in his executive order. So the first thing we would do is amend our state constitution saying, in order to register to vote and cast a ballot, you have to have your citizenship verified. Pretty simple. The second thing is, every time you cast your ballot, you have to demonstrate your identity. You have to verify your identity, either through a photo ID or the last four digits of the document you originally used to verify your citizenship. Pretty simple, right? So it's one document. You either say, okay, when I do a mail-in ballot, I'll use the last four digits on that document, or I'll vote in person by showing my identification document, my driver's license, my real ID, or passport, or whatever else you want. Democrats are going to say that this is racist. That's the biggest complaint I've heard. It's racist. 56% of African Americans support voter ID. 70% of non-white voters support voter ID. It's not racist. More importantly, the Supreme Court has judged that it's not racist and it does not impede accessibility of voting. This is a open and shut argument at this point. The voters, as well as the courts, have all agreed that this is not racist. It's also not impeding the accessibility of our elections. These are common sense reforms. Citizenship verification, identity verification should be done already, but not in California. That's why we've got to get this on the ballot with 1 million signatures, and we need your help. So go to the website, reformcalifornia.org. Your assignment today, sign up online. Here it is. Sign the voter ID petition online. That way you'll be the first to get a copy of the actual state-issued petitions in October. That's the timeline that we're expecting to get verification or go ahead from the state of California to collect signatures and get the 1 million that we're going to need to put it on the ballot. But also, please consider volunteering to collect signatures. Scroll to the bottom of that site and click under the volunteer button. We need help collecting signatures in the fall. And then finally, make a contribution. We need to raise $3 million hard cash in order for us to cover those legal expenses, campaign expenses, to get the 1 million signatures and pass this initiative. And again, matching funds are on the line with our coalition partners who are looking to us to see if we hit our fundraising goals and our volunteer recruitment goals in order for them to continue to support this effort. We can get this done. We can't just assume that the executive order issued by President Trump this week, as exciting as it is, as good as it is, will do the trick. So please join us at reformcalifornia.org. Take action today. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.